Hello, wonderful universe. It's Jennifer here at Eureka Astrology and Healing. And today we are talking about the Gemini full moon. The Gemini full moon is December 7th, 2022 at 10:08 p.m. Central Standard Time. And just remember, this is a very broad overall forecast for the energies. I consider them planetary. Really, I'm not putting the chart to a specific set point. I'm just reading the chart as it is, just so you know. If you want to know more about how this will affect your chart, this full moon, or the energies that are to come, it's really good to get your chart read, because even if I did for the month everybody's forecast per sign, it's still going to be general because your chart is unique to you. But with that, I hope that these readings, these forecasts really help you get the flavor, the feel of the energy, because it's important, because we have our microcosm and there's macrocosms, and you may see some of these things that I'm saying very directly in your life, but you also may feel the larger themes I'm talking about, just kind of swirling around you. It's still going to affect you. It's just different for everyone depending on your chart. With that, let's talk about the notables, the astro notables, because I always think it's important to know kind of what's going on around the area of these moons, because I'm not doing a weekly forecast. I just like to put them out there. So the first one is that Neptune has stationed direct on December 3rd, right? Just a few days before. Now, Neptune is a slow moving planet, and that's okay. But on a fun note, it's been retrograde for a year, since last December, and it hasn't moved very far. That's natural of Neptune, but it's going to play, I feel like, of large importance through this reading for this moon, but also for the time to come, because a year's a long time for a planet to be reassessing and kind of going inward, taking a nap, if you want to talk about Neptune, and it's kind of waking up, trying to bring the dream out, and that's a big deal. The next thing I want to talk about is that December 6th, just so the day before, is that Mercury moves into Capricorn. So the words that came to my mind is it's kind of time to sober up our thinking. With all that fun Sagittarius energy on the new moon, the 23rd, right before Thanksgiving, traveling, exploring, having a good time, feasting, friends, just philosophizing, there was a lot of warm, good time feelings. And not that Capricorn can't be fun. It's just kind of saying, like, all right, you went out and explored. What you going to do now, though? What's next here, right? Like, you've got the experience. How are you going to use that experience? How's that going to help you, build a new foundation, a new life, or whatever you're working towards, right? Or what you're committing to as well. Another notable as well is that Venus is conjunct at this time of the full moon, but it's out of sign. It's still in Sagittarius. So Venus is going to be moving in just a few days after this full moon into Capricorn. So desire, right, is going to be moving into Capricorn, which Venus is not so happy there. But again, the energy of like, all right, what are you going to keep? What has to go? In this case, really, like, what has to go to survive or to make this last longer? Where Sagittarius is just like, bring it in, bring it all in, let it go too. Like, it's a very in and out kind of a thing, like just expand, 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 where Capricorns contract. So even though we're still in Sagittarius season, we're about to be moving into the more, I want to say kind of contraction, but also solidifying energy, right? Mutable to cardinal. And that brings me to the next notable. So Sagittarius is mutable. Capricorn is cardinal. So right now, there are 6 planets, and the 2 luminaries, the sun and the moon, are in mutable signs. That's a lot of changing energy, much like the new moon. And so just think of this as we're still kind of like the Play-Doh, the blob, kind of the water, that's not frozen, moving around, being flexible, trying to figure out what we do next, like just kind of going with the flow, which is good. But we're about to be asked, because a lot of things are going to be moving into the cardinal more. Hey, look, what you going to start now, right? You've been testing things out in that mutable phase. It's going to be time to like pick something and do something. Not quite at this moon yet, but very soon. And I mean, you can if you want to. It's never the wrong time, quote unquote, to start something if you need to start something. But the energy when things move into cardinal is going to really give you that extra push. And also, just remember, this is a full moon. This is a full illumination. It's a peak energy. And so this is also a time of letting go. And that's going to be playing into this all because I want to talk about now the moon's name from Raven Calder's Moon Phase Astrology. And I actually want to read the quote first, one of the quotes from the book that he picked for this storyteller's moon, which is the perfect name for this moon, just to say, but I think this quote kind of says it all. And you'll see as I do the reading why. If you keep telling the same sad, small story, you will keep living the same sad, small life, right? So this is all about the story. And so as it is a full moon, the sun is still in Sagittarius. So it tells the bigger story, the gargantuan myth, think of the people who've gone out, who've left, say, the small community and lived this grand adventure, and they're bringing this tale, this epic, like the Odyssey, right? I went there, I did this big, beautiful story, but it's, woven in with myth, right? And then there's the Gemini storyteller who's given the details. So we have this large story, small story. But hear the word story, myth, right? We all live through our stories. We all live through myths. And with myths come archetypes, right? They're real things. They're through all cultures. We know them all. The mother, the father, those are archetypes. Death, the warrior, the maiden. Like there's so many different archetypes, and we all can embody similar ones, and some are different. We are a complex myriad of them, and some have them more prominent, certain ones more prominent, and some that are kind of in the back. And if you want to do research on this or do a course, Carolyn Mace actually does a great archetype online course if you really want to dig deep, because in that course you find out what are the archetypes that are ruling my life. What are the ones that need to be cultivated? What are the ones that I often live in the shadow of? Because each archetype has this very supportive, positive energy, but just like in astrology, right? Like every planet, every sign has a positive energy, and then there's a shadow side. And so what's that shadow side? What's that small story, right? We're getting back into the story. There's a story being told, and it's kind of time to look at the story, look at the archetypes, and see if we need to redo those, and on this full moon, let some of them go. And so what is your story? I like to pose that question to you. What is your myth? Take some time on this full moon to assess that. And it doesn't mean that it's a bad or a good story, but does it serve your highest good? Does it serve the greater good of the collective or of the universe? And, you don't have to believe in that, but all energy affects energy. So it's something to be aware of. And so a few other questions that I have are you telling yourself that old story and not giving yourself space to have a new story? Like just stuck in the past? Like, well, either you like that story or maybe that story has trauma around it. And there's a lot of energies that are connected, chords, right? In shamanism, there's chords to sometimes just an experience in that story. Do those chords need to be released so that they can be transformed into healthy energy for yourself? And then is your story less myth, right? Living in the archetypal themes, and is it more imagination? With Jupiter and Neptune right now being in the very last degrees of Pisces, imagination is very powerful right now, and it's great. It helps us birth something new. We need to have the imagination. It brings the ideas. However, the imagination can also create, I don't want to say fables and lies, but it creates, it's not looking for truth. It's trying to create something new. And so are we telling ourselves things that aren't true? Are we creating our archetypes, under a falsity? Are we creating our stories under a falsity? This is all very important stuff to be looked at this full moon, because I feel like there's some real nuggets of growth and positivity that can come from this. It's not, I don't feel like it's a harsh moon unless, there's some harsh realities that need to be looked at where the imagination and the fable, took over. But, it's still all for the greater good and the good of, yourself. So let's take a look at a lot of the other things going on here. So I looked at the aspects, and what is it time for you to change, right? With the mutable, what is it time to change? And what's interesting is that with some of the aspects here, the moon is conjunct Mars, or Mars is conjunct the moon in Gemini right now, very, very, very closely. And so what does that mean? The moon is our emotions in Gemini, right? So we're, reassessing more soberly, right? Mercury is in Capricorn. So like that thought process and that feeling process all kind of in one is like we're kind of thinking about, well, what am I saying here? Is this a truth? Is this a lie? And is this serving me? But then Mars is retrograde, and now it's not saying take action totally. It's kind of actually helping you kind of push in more. And so like you might have some deep feelings, and maybe they might even feel a little volatile, but also Mars helps sever. So it's like, oh, well, I have this emotional response to this due to one of the archetypes or the story I'm telling myself, and this needs to go. Pardon me, this is not helping at all. Let it go. And, Mars is a little frustrated when it goes retrograde, but everybody needs to take a break. Everyone needs to reassess. So it's okay to let go inward with that. And another aspect that is more harmonious is Saturn is trying to the conjunction of the moon and Mars in Gemini. So what's that bringing us? It's telling us to be our unique selves. We need to bring that to the table, our geniusness into the roles of our myths. Like what makes you special, right? You need to commit to that. We all need to commit to that. And it's for the greater good. It's not just, for yourself, as like Leo, which is opposite of Aquarius, says, oh, it's for me. And, I like entertaining, makes me feel good. This is about everybody else. Like it's time to shine, but with responsibility. As well as how our story plays into, right? So Aquarius is the larger collective. How does our myth play into the collective? How is it doing the collective any good, or is it causing it harm? But I'm going to just bring it back to the uniqueness again. Only you can play you. So like let the uniqueness and the truth of yourself, right? Aquarius, truth. And also we have the Sagittarius energy, truth again, of yourself, be open and out there and in this greater myth, and I think it'll truly serve something good. Now try to resist not getting lost in the good time, right? So that kind of speaks a little bit to the Sagittarius energy. Like, well, so remember, you ever heard someone tell a story of a time in their life where, it was absolute hell for them. It just, it was the trouble after trouble, suffering, pain, and often it's because they went out and did some grand adventure and it was different, it was new. And now they gained that experience that is extremely important, and it's extremely valid that they did that. And I don't want to downplay that, but most people around them know like it was hell. And I personally have some stories like that. So it makes me laugh because it's like, I remember like, oh, that was just, I missed that. It's so great. I wish I could do that again. Everyone around me is like, that sounds like absolute hell, Jennifer. Like, why do you want to do that again? Because I'm remembering the newness, right? The Sagittarian, it was a new experience. It was exciting. I bet people from other countries, like, I remembered all the good things and tried to ignore all the, I want to say negatives, but yeah, like the things that were really, stressors, right? Stressors on me. And so try not to ignore the stressors, because with that Sagittarius energy, we're going to still want to just kind of, I don't want to say bury our heads in the sand, but just like, yeah, oh, it was so much better. Because as we continue to tell our those stories and those myths, right, and we keep weaving them in and kind of ingraining them in our life, it may create bad patterns for ourselves, I should say harmful patterns for ourselves moving forward in relationships or things that we want to do, say jobs or anything of that nature. Be like, don't sugarcoat that, because you actually let yourself get treated poorly. Just because you had fun in one area of the situation doesn't mean it's good for the rest. So just kind of pay attention to that. And take note too here, Jupiter is at the last degrees of Pisces, and Venus is squaring Venus in Sagittarius. And so I also see that we want to get lost in that adventure, just kind of was talking about there, in that dream, and miss out where we need to rewrite the story, where it's just kind of like, whoa, I'm dreaming, I'm imagining, oh, I want to be free and explore. So there's a little tension there too. Like I want to be free, but I also want to be connected to everything, that kind of tension, but also like just that good feeling and just like, oh, I don't need to think about anything. But it's like, wait, whoa, like we need to be reassessing this, because you just want to get lost in things, right? Very Neptunian, like whatever it is, books, TV, food, sex, anything that distracts us from what's really going on. And we're really being asked to look at that, especially with Mars conjunct the moon. It's like, hey, no, it's time now. Like Mars is of action, even if it's retrograde, and even if it's an internal thing, it's an internal looking. Now, when it goes direct, when it goes forward past these degrees later on, we may actually take that action and fully sever what happened on this full moon. So many great things, really. It's time for us to take the opportunity to use our uniqueness and move forward and create what we want, and to create the new myth that we want, so the mythology, it's not a falsity, and also to step into the archetypes that maybe we have not fostered that will help us grow, and also maybe to look at the archetypes that we've let run amok that have caused us or others around us potential harm, and be real with that. We also need to know where we need to cut back right now, as things are going to start to move to Capricorn, like I said, with Mercury, especially mentally. Like maybe there's a lot of mental chatter in that myth, right? Maybe there's anxiety. Maybe there's just too many stories. Well, cut it back, cut the belt back, so that you create a solid, tight set of things going on here. And under this storyteller's moon, don't forget to stop telling the stories and get out there and live it, right? We're still in Sagittarius. Don't get stuck in just talking about the things that happened. Go out there and do it. Enjoy life, enjoy the experiences. That's where our stories are shaped. That's where our archetypes get strengthened. That's where we support the collective, is getting out there and doing things. And we're about to go inward in a lot of ways, right? Capricorn winter in the Northern Hemisphere. It's, that warmth of Sagittarius feels fantastic, but it's about to get cold, and it is already starting to get cold here. And so take those experiences and let them warm you through these times of introspection. With that, I'm Jennifer at Eureka Astrology and Healing. May the stars ground you. Oh my gosh. May the plants ground you and the stars guide you. Thank you so much. Ciao for now.